Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody, you might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, and this is episode 192, fast approaching episode 200. The day is May 8th, year of our Lord, 2024. We got a lot of things coming up. We got the Minnesota Republican Convention coming up May 18th, where I'll be seeking the Republican Party endorsement from the Republican delegation here in Minnesota. I went to all the congressional districts, and I had a good reception and got a few standing ovations, and got a lot of good feedback from the people. And this is a we the people movement, even within the party. And there are a lot of people who are excited and open to my candidacy, and I'm trying to do as best as I can to unify the Republican Party here in Minnesota around a set of ideas that I think can be effective in trying to win, but also are true. Let's reverse it. I would say first and foremost are true, but can also be effective in trying to win. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those perspectives here on this podcast. But again, if you are in the Republican Party, please go to roycewhite.us, sign up to volunteer, contact us if you want to be a delegate. Right now, we're trying to get a team together. I haven't spent a lot of time. Look, I'm a person with trust issues, and if you know anything about the Uniparty and you know anything about how DC is run, you understand my skepticism of people who are involved in politics as a profession. I'm not a professional politician. I don't even consider myself to be a politician, but I damn sure believe I can do a whole hell of a lot better and represent you there in DC than the people we have now, especially, but not only Amy Klobuchar. So we're going to put a team together, but we're going to put the right team together. And up until this point, um, I haven't really tried to put that team together. Once the endorsement happens, if it happens, if I'm fortunate enough to be endorsed, then we'll really, fast track putting. I got some people that I've had in mind, but another part of this deal, and let me talk about this piece for a moment. The money plays thing in politics is the problem with this country. I just got to say it, in all honesty. The money plays that the first problem is there's not enough money. The money for them is unlimited. There is no limit. Let's just get that clear. On their side of the football, there is no limit. Raphael Warnock raised $250 million in 4 weeks for a runoff. There's no limit, okay? The money's unlimited, partly because the institutions have become captured and they tilt one way, and so the institutions have the power to call upon their audience to use that reach, to use those platforms to raise as much money as they need to with whatever boogeyman they choose. Is it white supremacy, fascism, Donald Trump is a racist, he's a rapist, whatever they want to say, abort, whatever issue it is, they will use Black Lives Matter. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here today. But they will use whatever they need to, and they have the reach through technology to raise as much money as they think that they need. It's unlimited. The good thing for us is that money has its limits. We have to get over this idea that money is the be-all, end-all. And as soon as we get over the idea that money is the be-all, end-all, then we can actually have a movement of we the people that is led by the people, that is moved in mind and heart and spirit. And a lot of people, I still think there's a final hurdle for people to truly believe. I've never been, this kumbaya optimist until this campaign cycle. And I've actually been out there in Minnesota at these congressional districts, down in southeastern Minnesota, down there in southwestern Minnesota. I didn't get a chance to get up to CD7, but CD7 had a throwdown and a fight there for the endorsement, which tells me that, Stephen Boyd and Fishbach have their own constituency, and whatever it is that they're for, there's tension. There is a question now. There's a referendum within the party here in Minnesota, and I would say it's reflective of the entire country. And so I'm optimistic for the first time that this actually this might be that moment in American history where the money is not the be all end all. that people are actually looking for the truth. They're looking for solutions. I think that's why the War Room has been so impactful, not only here in America, but all around the world. And I think it's why Steve Bannon is so loved and adored, because he gets to the truth of the matter. And so I say that to say part of running these campaigns is you got to pay all these people. You got to pay all these people a salary. They make you pay the people, right? So people can't just volunteer their time. I mean, they can volunteer for the campaign, but if they have official positions, people can't just volunteer that. You have to actually pay people. And if you don't pay people, then your campaign's not considered to be, legitimate. I mean, you can't have a We the People movement if you're forced to pay some general consultant $30,000 in order to run a campaign, or some donor bundler, or whatever the case may be. This is the problem with American politics, and to be honest, it offends me. But I'm optimistic because although that's traditionally how things have been run, it would seem that I'm in very good position. At least I have a very good chance of being endorsed by the delegation, and I haven't spent a dollar. I have not spent a dollar. We have alternative media. I've been fortunate enough through Real America's Voice and through Bannon to get a lot of FaceTime with the America Firsters in the audience. They know who I am. They know what I stand for, and I appreciate that. I'm honored to be able to speak to you guys on a nightly basis, to be able to have you tune into the podcast, to be able to have you watch me on Real America's Voice on Saturdays morning. I'm truly honored. But more so, I'm happy that it's broken this vice grip that the corrupt money in this country has had on the minds of the American people. And so now the referendum is real, because without spending a single dollar, I have more than enough indication that the delegate support out there exists for me to be the endorsed candidate. Call it what you want, but that's a sign of us moving in the right direction. So if you are in the Republican Party out there, if you're in Minnesota and you plan on being at the state convention, I would love to have your endorsement. I'll see you at the state convention. I'm going to be there and be allowed to speak all things fair and equal moving forward. And let's win. Let's win. Now, the buried lead is that Donald Trump in the latest poll is tied here with Joe Biden in Minnesota, 40-40. RFK's pulling down about 9%. And I told you guys, like RFK or not, there are going to be a lot of people from that side of the aisle that start to move closer to us on some issues. Not all issues, not all at once. On my X, I played a climate change video from 1983, I think, where they were saying in the next 7 to 8 years, there's going to be catastrophic climate changes and things like that. So, they've been running that narrative for 24 years. And even if you believe the climate is changing, after 24 years of them saying cataclysm, 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 you got to at least start to ask the question like, when is it coming again? I mean, if you're not willing to do that, then you probably are a sheep and you'll end up being a slave because you listen to whatever you're told. And that's un-American, but it's not even really human. The natural human curiosity is to question authority. If we question the authority of God during creation, we'd be right to question the likes of, I don't know, Bill Gates. I mean, what kind of authority is he? But anyway, I digress. My point is, there are going to be all these people that come from this side on certain issues, and we have to be open to that. Not to let them, take over and let them change our core beliefs or our core values or our standards, but there are going to be people who want to cross that line, who want to, and I think RFK is one of them. I'm not vying for RFK. I said as far as, obviously I took the picture with RFK and I know him. I was able to meet him on a number of occasions and I like him and we have a relationship. I know some of his people. It is what it is. But Donald Trump is the candidate. It's obvious. 91 indictments. They want to throw him in jail. He's the guy. He's the guy that they're afraid of. And for damn good reason. All I'm saying is that it would throw a major ringer to take that 9% in a place like Minnesota and stack it on the side of American citizens and not the establishment if RFK became the VP choice. Just saying. Doesn't have to be. I mean, there are tons of other VP choices that would be good as well. But the man is pulling down 10% in the polls. And for all the people who want to do the math ain't mathin' or the math is mathin' thing out there, who all the people want to make these elections super strategic and mathematical. The math is right there on the wall with that one. And I don't think Donald Trump and RFK are as far apart on the core issues as many people would like to think. And really the core issues, like I said, border debt forever wars. I think RFK is very clear on the border so far as I know. I mean, you could dig up a clip of somebody saying anything. I mean, there's so much stuff out there. I don't know. I think he's very clear about the debt. And I know that RFK, if for nothing else, is exactly where we need him to be about this war between Russia and Ukraine. And that really is one of the dividing lines. And I want to say, from all of my time at these congressional district conventions, the one issue that seems to be pulling together a new sort of unity amongst the people is that we don't need to be fighting these wars everywhere. We don't need to be fighting a war a world away to protect the Ukraine's border while our own is wide open. People understand that concept. And so we have to prioritize. You know, the country's bleeding. Okay, we're in this is a medical emergency. Okay, this isn't a fucking around matter. This is your vitals are not looking stable. You have you're in critical condition. We got to make some decisions and make some priorities and cut some losses and be able to live to fight another day. Okay, or else you might as well start saying your prayers now, repenting now, and let the chips fall where they may on the other side. Okay, so and that's what I'll say. I'm not saying that it has to be, I'm not saying it has to be RFK or that it has to be anybody in particular. But what I am saying is the Ukraine war is a dividing line that many people understand, and they understand it in the party. So that's where I'll leave that. If I see you at convention, don't be afraid to come up to me. I'd love to take pictures and or sign autographs or whatever it is that people want to do. Be looking for my booth, Royce White for Senate at the convention. And I look forward to a great convention and a great speech. Hopefully I can come out of there with the endorsement and we can move on to attack Amy. Now, attacking Amy. I'm about 12 minutes in. I get a little long-winded. Some people tell me that intro is too long. But anyway, attacking Amy. You guys may not understand why I'm going to talk about this Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. And I'm never one to go to the superficial or the entertainment to distract from the core issues of politics. But here we have a significant cultural clash and contradiction, even more importantly, a significant cultural contradiction brewing up in the Black community, which is so heavily impacted by hip hop and rap music, that's revealing a lot. And it's a part of the exact strategy that I'm going to use to take down Amy Klobuchar. And I think it's going to be effective. And it's going to be effective all across the country. In fact, it's already begun to take root, whether I'm running or not. This is the direction of where our country is headed right now politically. For all of those out there who don't know about this Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, you got two rappers, two very different styles of rappers in some respects. Kendrick Lamar being more of what they call a lyrical rapper, and Drake being more of a pop sort of singer, sort of rapper, kind of has a very commercial mainstream thing going on. Part of the dig on artists is always about how much commercial success they have, because it's seen as though the industry itself, the mechanism of the industry itself, throws itself behind an artist and sort of propels them into success, into continual success. Drake is certainly an artist that is, by many measures, one of the most successful Billboard and pop commercial artists of all time, having now surpassed Michael Jackson in #1 records. And if you're out there and you don't understand just how influential these two are, but rap music as a whole, understand that Drake has more #1 records than Michael Jackson. Okay. I mean, whether you think rap is a legitimate form of music or not, understand the impact. Drake has more #1 records than Michael Jackson. Okay. Now, part of that is the speed with which music can now be put out, and the entire change of how music is produced. And I get all of that. The numbers are the numbers. If you want to do math is mathing or not mathing, Drake is one of the most successful pop artists of all time. So the culture clash is, Kendrick Lamar being this sort of underground lyrical rapper, Drake being this pop commercial sensation, and the two have exchanged a number of what they call diss records, diss tracks, in order to take shots at one another. It's become pretty personal. I tuned in to listen to the content for another reason, but I tuned in to listen to the content of what both were getting at, and here's what I can deduce from it. And it's important. I don't want to say everything's political, but increasingly everything is becoming political. And there's a nugget in here that is going to eventually be the downfall of the Democrat Party and the liberal establishment in this country and all around the world. But what I can deduce from the beef is, um, it started off with Drake and J. Cole having this record, and in the record they talked about the big three, and it was kind of caught my ear because I play in the Big Three, right, with Ice Cube. It's the league that Ice Cube owns, and he talked about, in the record, J. Cole talked about a big three, seemingly referencing Kendrick, Drake, and J. Cole as the three perennial rappers in the industry. And so Kendrick Lamar comes back and has a record, and he says, F the big three, is just big me, basically saying I'm not in no big three sort of, pile up trio with you two. I'm on my own, and kind of throwing a shot at them and saying I don't really vibe with you guys like that. I'm doing my own thing. So that that record kind of what kicked everything off. J. Cole then comes back and has a record that he put out where he was kind of responding to Kendrick Lamar, and then at a concert of his, he went up on stage and kind of apologized for having responded to Kendrick Lamar, pulled out of what has now become a full-blown beef just between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And so Drake put out his own diss record, and he's just going for it. He's like, I'm not apologizing. I'm not with J. Cole. I'm going straight forward ahead, and this we're full-blown rap beef, okay? It seems comical, but again, I remind you, Drake is the most successful Billboard artist of all time. So whether you listen or not, there's a lot of young people out there, young people who we are going to need to vote, that are out there that listen to this music and are influenced by these artists and the mainstream media and social media, as we all very well know. So it would be wise for people out there to tune in and at least have some understanding of what's being said, just like in your schools. Social media has become the number one source of education, whether we like it or not. We need to know what the school is teaching, just like we should know what our real schools are teaching. Anyway, so Kendrick Lamar fires back, and here's where things got real uh, dishonest. It's become racial. Go figure. Go figure that a rap beef in the modern era will become racial. Everything goes racial. I mean, it's you can just count on it. Everything becomes racial. We live in a hyper racialized society. And yes, there is race. And I'm not one to say, oh, well, it's the human race and blah, blah, blah. Look, there's race, there's culture, there's history, right? There's identity, there's nationality. I always find it funny when people get ethnicity and nationality mixed up, like you can't be, we'll talk about that another time. But so all of those things exist, and they're not nothing, but they're certainly not everything. They're certainly pale in comparison to what the establishment is trying to do to citizens, free people all around the world at this juncture in human history. But this rap beef became racial. And the racial angle came from Kendrick Lamar, which, in my opinion, was a forfeit of the beef. I mean, when you go racial in a rap beef, you lose. That's my opinion. And now people, how it became racial is, if you don't know this about the black community, there has always been a sort of uh, tension between people who are darker skin and people who have fairer skin. It's always seen kind of loosely as a measure of one's blackness, right? I mean, the lighter your skin is, it's assumed that somewhere in there you had some white lineage, some white blood, and in some cases it's used to sort of to kind of take a dig at the lighter skinned people to say they are not fully black. So anybody out there who's black who's listening who acts like that's not a real thing, they're fucking lying. if some of you white folks out there don't know this, I'm explaining it for the first time so you can have some cultural context to what I'm talking about here. And so Kendrick Lamar's the gist of Kendrick Lamar's diss about Drake is one, you're not black enough, really. I mean, you're from Toronto. Uh, your mom is white. Drake's mom is a Jewish white lady. Um, you're not really from the culture, quote unquote. And I'm going to talk about that because it really kind of pisses me off. What pisses me off so much about it is what I see people saying in the comments. It just shows me how far we've come, but how stupid the loudest people in the room still can be. And we're gonna get through some of that here in a moment. But his basic diss against Drake is you didn't take care of your kid. Drake had a kid that really nobody knew about, and um, that was a whole scandal for the rap industry, I guess. He had a kid that people didn't know about, and so that was his three basic attacks on Drake is you're not fully black. So don't say the word nigga. Don't say the word negro because you're not black. You're not really from the streets. Okay, you're kind of suburban, and you don't take care of your kid. And also he even threw in there that you're like that he's like a womanizer because he sexualizes women in his music. Okay, that's the gist of it. Drake's basic response was, all you guys are hating on me because, and now there are a number of other rappers that jumped on this beef on Kendrick Lamar's side, and there's kind of a whole thing kicking up and brewing up. Drake's basic response was, "I'm more successful than you guys. I make more money than you guys. My albums and records sell more than you guys. I'm spending my money. I'm having a ball. There's nothing you can really do about it. Hey, I'm not one to judge. I don't where I'm from." It's not for me to judge what a man does with his time and his money and his energy. It's just not for me to judge. Judge lest you be judged. I'm not there to judge that. I'm certainly not going to be the one to judge who's black enough, who's street enough, okay, and how much time they're spending with their kids or the circumstances of their parental relationship with their kid's mother or father or whatever. That's just not my business. I certainly don't care to be tuning into rap music to put my judge apron on and you know my judge robes on and be making those type of judgments. Just music is for the most part always been a source of fun and sort of freedom and relaxation, and then sometimes it has to be educational, and that's all fine. But to make it this gossipy, judgmental court of public opinion is so corny to me. But we're going to talk about it, because and I'll tell you why I took personal offense to it. Obviously, as you can see, I'm pretty light skinned myself, and I would challenge any one of these people. I don't care what the color of their skin is, where they come from, who's credentialized them, who's vouched for. I would dare any one of these people to try and challenge my blackness or my street credibility or my realness and genuineness in the things that I'm doing. I would challenge anybody to do that. Any one of them. But see, all my time being in the public, I've never once had anybody come up and challenge any of the stuff that I've said or been involved with. It always comes, through the internet. It always comes through comments. It's never in person. The only thing I get in person is love and respect and appreciation and encouragement in terms of feedback. And maybe that's just because people tend to be pretty non-confrontational and don't, find it important maybe to come up and challenge me on some of the stuff that I've said in the public. But go down the list. Mental health is important with the NBA. Free the Uyghurs. After George Floyd died, I took people to the Federal Reserve. I said, you want to say the whole system is guilty? You have no clue how guilty it really is. In 2020, I spoke out about the election. I said, hey, look, I don't think I think the elections have been uh, rigged, for lack of a better term, in a number of ways for a very long time. And I think you guys going after Donald Trump now is a witch hunt. And I think this whole narrative against conservatives and black conservatives in particular, or America Firsters and MAGA, is a bullshit story. And I can stand on that and I can point out how. And today I'm going to use this Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef to further point out how. And this is it right here. Now we're gonna start saying who's black enough and who isn't. Where do you people get your balls? Where do you people get your balls to be saying who's black enough and who isn't? I just want to know, where do you get your fucking balls? Tell me. Tell me. It's funny because there's like three worlds in the black community. There's the world of actually being from a neighborhood, in a community, in a city, and in a in a family, in a household. There's actually being in the community, and then there's like this sort of academic, uh, cosplay, theater and representation of what Black America is, and then there's politics, right? You know what I mean? And so it's just like never in my 33 years did people feel comfortable challenging how black somebody was. Oh, you're not black enough. Now, people may say, hey, you don't really have any ties to the black community. You're not interested in the community. You're not in the community. You don't want to live in the community. And let's start there. It's weird to me to see so many people judge how real or black somebody is by having lived in the community and wanting to continue to live in a community that most people who rap about the black community are rapping about getting out of the community because of the adverse circumstances that exist in the community. I hope you could follow that. I mean, a lot of people rap about, you know, coming into success financially, being exposed to different things that they hadn't had a chance to really see or experience, having come from a black community and being able to help their moms out or their loved ones out financially and kind of overcoming the financial burden, economic hardship of poverty. That is a huge component of what rap music, let's say, promotes or what's discussed in the stories that come out of rap music. So I'm not if the goal is to get out of poverty, then why are we trying to judge people of not being black enough because they or their parents found a way for them to live in the suburbs? That shit doesn't make sense to me. And here, I'm a person who lives in the suburban area, you could say, of the greater Minneapolis, St. Paul metropolitan area, but I can still go to the neighborhood in Minneapolis or St. Paul if I want to because I was born and raised there. But whether or not I'm gonna go there and hang out there and just, be in the streets all day there is another question entirely. Why would you go somewhere where people act ignorant as fuck? Why would you want to be somewhere where 3-year-old girls are catching stray fucking bullets? And I don't mean to go dark really quick here, but come on, what are we talking about? What is being black enough? What is being street enough? If what you mean by being street is that you are prone to violence or you are willing to harm another black person over some trivial shit, usually trivial shit, gossip, just like being reflected in this rap beef. If that makes you street enough or of the culture or whatever, you're fucking dumb. You're just a moron. I mean, that's really what you're saying. And we want to measure ourselves by being moronic in many ways. And that is offensive. It's offensive to black people. It's offensive to our forebears. It's offensive to any type of lineage or history or cultural identity you want to say you're proud of. Any type of black pride. There's no pride in that. There's nothing to be proud of in that. Malcolm wouldn't be proud of that shit. Malcolm said it best. Malcolm X said it the best. He said, uh, all of you people want to leave Harlem, want to get out of Harlem, want to move to the suburbs or move to somewhere that's nicer. Why not make Harlem a place that you want to live? And I think that's a profound statement. And he's striking exactly at what we're talking about here. All of you rappers are talking about getting this money and going to, and then I see all of them on, they're in Dubai or they're in fucking Abu Dhabi or they're in Turks and Caicos. They're in the Italian Alps and, they got some Instagram model, who's eating caviar off their balls or whatever kinky stuff they're into. And hey, that's not for me to judge. But then the conversation always comes back to the culture and the black community and what's black enough and what's not. It's just like a psyop. And I'll just prove it to you. Are we going to start saying, and this is what people are saying in the comments, and it's quite disturbing because the contradiction is so obvious and it's so politically motivated. I honestly, it's gut wrenching. It really is. It's gut wrenching. We're going to start saying people who have white moms aren't black. Is that what we're doing now? It's funny. I mean, is that really where you want to go? Black people, black men who have white moms aren't black now. Is that where you guys are going with this shit? Drake isn't black. His dad's black. He's from Memphis. His dad is from Memphis. He's black. He's 100% black as far as I could tell. And his mom is a white Jewish lady. So now he's not black or black enough because his mom is Jewish. Is that where we're going with this shit? Are you guys sure you want to do this? I'm just asking. Before we travel down this path, are you sure you want to do this? As my grandfather, my black granddaddy, as my black granddaddy used to say, you're going to get everything you're asking for. The question is, do you want what you're going to get? You sure you want to go down this path where we start, measure it? First off, it's just radical materialism. You can't talk about racial superiority or supremacy and then get into this type of measurement about who's black enough and who's not. I mean, that's like Nazi shit. The Nazis used to judge people's whiteness based on how far or south they were, how far north or south they came from in Europe. You can't get into this. Is just Darwinism. This is just social Darwinism. This is eugenics. That's all it is. You people are mimicking a pseudo-intellectual scientific ideology. That's what you're doing. And you think you're like profound. You think you're, and that's what they mean by when they say woke. When somebody's asked you, what does woke mean? That's what woke is right there. It's this sort of pseudo-intellectual, academic, loosely academic based, ideology. And people think it's profound and it's just dumb. It's logically dumb. This is a prime example. Drake's not black enough because his mom is white? Really? Couple of things with that. Number one, all you sellout bourgeois Negroes who would support some fucking nonsense like that have either in the past or are currently still supporting Barack Obama and his mama was white. And I see the comments. I know what you guys are fucking doing. You're not slick. You Marxist identity politics, omnisexual fucks are not slick. I know exactly what you're trying to do. I know exactly what you're trying to do here. Kendrick Lamar is seen as the underground lyrical pro-black rapper because he gets behind the Black Lives Matter movement. That's what you're trying to do. And Drake was the misogynist because he had an album cover where the woman emoji had a pregnant tummy. And we can't say that women are the only ones who can get pregnant anymore, right? Right? But you're not willing to boycott Apple because they're the ones who created the emojis. And then Apple's willing to bend the knee a little bit and create a transgender emoji so everybody feels happy. But you really didn't like the fact that Drake made an album called Certified Lover Boy and it had a woman emoji with a pregnant belly. See, I see where the whole thing really started. But Kendrick Lamar was willing to say there's nothing wrong with a man being called a woman, and if you're going to do that, then don't be mad when a white woman says the N-word and all a bunch of weird, goofy shit he was saying on his last album that I came across. Because I keep a track on what these influencers of the community are talking about. I got to keep my finger on the pulse to make sure that I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's and keeping a view of what and who's doing what, when, where, how, okay? So Kendrick Lamar rides the wave of Black Lives Matter, and all of a sudden Drake's not black enough. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting because if today at 2 p.m., light-skinned black man like myself was to get shot and killed by a cop out here in this parking lot, I guarantee you that Black Lives Matter locally and all across the country and Ben Crump and all you other fucking black bourgeois omnisexual sellouts would show up to that man's deathbed, to that man's scene, BCAC, whatever it is, you would show up and you would claim him and you would claim any of the social and political benefit that was there for you to get. I guarantee it. I've seen it. Wasn't nobody saying that let a light-skinned man get shot and killed by the cops. Watch how fast the internet says another black man killed by a cop. If it was me, if I was shot and killed today by the police, well, maybe not me because I'm running as a Republican and I'm MAGA and the Black Lives Matter movement is so fundamentally opposed to you having a country that they would probably spark the propaganda to say, well, that's what you get for supporting the Republicans. This is the world we're living in. And I get the cultural signal straight from this rap beef here between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar, and don't get me wrong, I like Kendrick Lamar. I like his music. I thought his first album was one of the best rap albums of all time, and it was certainly one of the best rap albums to come out in a long time when it came out. It was different. It was unique. Kendrick Lamar had a different take on things, a different flavor, different style, and he is a great lyricist. He's structurally cadence. You know, I'm very familiar with music. If you're in the audience and you don't know that, I'm very familiar with music, producing music. And so on and so forth. So, you know, I understand the genius of Kendrick Lamar from a music standpoint, but I also tip my hat and understand the genius of Drake and from a music standpoint. But none of that even fucking matters, really. When you start going to play the race card in a rap beef, who's jacking that? I mean, I just couldn't imagine any. There's not an old timer, an older gangster from the neighborhood that I could imagine even speaking on whether or not somebody was black enough. Because I know white people from the neighborhood that were gangster, that were Latinos, Mexicans, Jewish people, Polacks, Irish. I mean, nobody real says shit like that. Nobody real speaks about certain things in that way. You just don't do it. There used to be rules, and I know the rules are crumbling. I mean, hell, if women aren't the only ones who can get pregnant, obviously we're rewriting the fucking rules of our entire society and the way that we think, and some of that is absolute lunacy. So I get that. But when it comes to the street and the code and the there are things that you don't breach. You don't talk about how black somebody is. That was never a real. Where are we going with this shit? Honestly, somebody tell me in the comments. Maybe I'm fucking losing it. But you never talked about how black somebody was because chances are you didn't know what the fuck you were talking about. I know plenty of fair skin. Take me, for example. My mom's not white. I have a similar skin tone to a person like Drake where I'm light skinned, but my mom's not white. My mom is half black. You know, both of her grandfathers were black. She had one Norwegian grandmother. She had one Mexican grandmother. So what is she? I mean, obviously she's predominantly black, but she's light-skinned. And the Norwegians have strong genes. So when you get a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Norwegian and you mix a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Norwegian with a man that's half black, half Mexican, you know, she's going to be a little fair-skinned. She's not black enough, my mother? My mom's not black enough with two black granddaddies whose family came out of slavery. They didn't come here from Kenya, okay? They weren't scientific managerial elites, government fucking shills from Kenya. They came from chains and bondage. My mom's not black enough? Okay. But Barack Obama is. See, this is the problem. I asked you, did you want to go down this road? And this is the same thing I'm going to bring to Amy Klobuchar and all these feckless fucking Democrats who think you're so stupid that you'll keep buying this bullshit story so they can keep stealing your fucking money. No. Is Malcolm X not black enough? He was light-skinned. Hell, Martin Luther King was pretty fair-skinned when you really get down to it. He wasn't very dark-skinned either. Okay, so it's, Don Lemon is black, though. Okay, I mean, give me a fucking break. You're Don Lemon's a black man. He's bottoming for a white. I mean, give me a break. Are you kidding me? Are you guys kidding me? And I know maybe you're sitting out there right now. You think, of what consequence is this? This is the way they plan to win and steal elections. I said it before, I'll say it a fucking again. For all of you conservatives out there who don't understand the cultural importance of what the fuck is going on here. When Raphael Warnock is in a dead heat with Herschel Walker in a fucking runoff in Georgia, and then they tap the technological corporatocracy and all of the verticals of the globalist corporate community to raise Raphael Warnock $250 million fucking dollars in 4 weeks on the narrative that Herschel Walker is just a token Negro working for the white man. And Joe Biden's not white? Or Joe Biden's just the right kind of white? And now we're talking about the right kind of black. And it's all based on politics. It's all based on politics. It's your politics that make you black or white now. Ain't that a bitch? Come talk that shit in the neighborhood. When you see me in person, you black bourgeoisie sellouts, you come talk that goofy shit in person. I'll be the one to tell you what the fuck is really going on. You come talk that shit to me. It's easy for you to talk that posh, yuppie, liberal shit in your fucking think tanks and your fucking group therapy sessions, your little bullshit activist groups, and out there in the university. It's easy for you to talk that goofy shit there. You come talking in person to people who actually lived in the community, who actually came up in the community, who actually had friends shot and killed in the community, who actually helped pay for funerals from friends who were shot and killed in the community, who held people's mamas, who held people's daddies, who held people's girlfriends and sisters and aunties who were killed in the community. You come talk that shit to us. We're not black enough now? I'm not black enough? My mom's not white. My mom is a quarter Norwegian. One grandmother was Norwegian, quarter Mexican, 50% black. My dad, completely black. Michael Jordan dark, okay? I came out light skinned. My father is completely, he's dark. He's not even Martin Luther King Brown. He's dark, black, dark, okay? And just because my mom was light skinned, I ended up lighter skinned. I'm not black enough. But Barack Obama is. Okay. You're full of shit. You're full of shit, and we're not going for it anymore. I don't really give a fuck who raps better, Kendrick Lamar or Drake, or who said what, or when the beef started, or what happens with the contracts and I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. Got nothing to do with nothing. It's got nothing to do with nothing. What is important here is the little cultural stories that they Trojan horse into every part of American culture. The little cultural subversions they Trojan horse into every part of mainstream media in America. Let me say that the right way. And every single issue, they smuggle a little. They smuggle a little. It was the LSU in Iowa. Okay, now it's Drake versus Kendrick Lamar, and it's just constant. It's non-fucking stop. It's nonstop. It's just nonstop. And the reality is, this is what they want to do to keep you distracted. This is what they want to do to keep you on the Ferris wheel, and it's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Drake's not black enough. His mom is white. His mom is Jewish. He's not black. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? My grandmother, my mom's mother, is 50% Norwegian and 50% black. Her dad, her father, Milton Pryor, was 100% black, came from Arkansas. People were in slavery. He was fair-skinned. He was already a fair-skinned black man. He wasn't even mixed. He was black, but he just had fair skin. Maybe he had some Native American in him or something like that, but he was fair-skinned. And when you cross a fair-skinned person like me, who's, 60%, 70% black, which I don't know what the percentage is now you have to be fully black or to be black enough. I don't know. You're going to fucking break out your 23andMe kit. Are you fucking kidding me? So you cross somebody like me with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Norwegian girl, you're going to have a really fair-skinned child. And my grandmother is so fair-skinned, she looks white. completely. Like when I was a kid coming up, and my grandmother would take me to places like basketball tournaments or what, like people would be looking at her like, who is this old white lady you're with? And I'm like, that's my grandma. And people kind of laughed at it because they're like, she's like white. And, I mean, she's white. Okay. She's Norwegian looking white, but she's 50% black. Her father is full black. And I go back to that to say, why are we we're doing judge a book by its cover now? See, the reason you never talked about shit like that is because it wasn't none of your business, number one, but you didn't know. And you were wise enough and smart enough to know what you don't know. And you weren't going to speak on shit that you didn't know over risk and looking like a complete fool and opening your mouth before you knew. That used to be seen as something that wasn't cool. Now, with social media and all this other shit, everybody jumps to talk about shit they don't know anything about. And it usually is petty and it's gossipy and it's superficial and it's got nothing to do with anything important. It's all just on the surface. I mean, let's talk about it for real. The reality is, and this is the reality is, Kendrick Lamar, and beyond that, as soon as you say misogyny, you lost. You lost the battle. Don't be saying misogyny. The entire edifice of hip hop music, rap music, mainstream media in general is based on selling sex, the internet as well. Half the internet is porn. And I'm not here to judge, okay? But my point is, you can't condemn an artist like Drake or any artist for sexualizing the music or the women attached to it or the women in their life because our entire American culture is sexualized and we all benefit from the freedom of that. Now, should we try and change that? Absolutely. How much any one person's willing to sacrifice to make that necessary change is a different question entirely. And it doesn't seem to me that Kendrick Lamar has gone in and out of his way to change the sexual nature of American mainstream media. No, he's talked about it from a soapbox, which is this sort of pseudo activism that we've seen pop up all throughout the Black Lives Matter movement. It's like the Black Lives Matter movement says that we're aligned with the women's movement, the Me Too movement, but then you are promoting women doing sex work and trying to normalize that as though it doesn't have its own physical and spiritual, but psychological risks to it. Of course it does. And so, it's just more of the same that the Democrats and the Democrat movement is all about trying to tell you. It's all about trying to tell you that they care about you so that you will trust them, give them your vote, and then allow them to use your money take your money, steal your money, really is what they're doing. They're stealing your fucking money. Steal your money as long as you'll keep the cultural narrative together, as long as they will uphold the cultural narrative for your fragile psychology. And that's what they're doing. The Democrats, the liberal, the mainstream media industrial complex that tilts left and now even far left progressive with a whole bunch of pseudo intellectual ideas, that establishment is upholding the fragile psychology of the black community and everybody else who wants to play identity politics. And they do it damn well. And the greatest symbol of it, the poster child of it is Barack Obama. And look at the contradiction. I see people saying that Drake is not black enough because he has a white mom, but Barack Obama they hold up as a saint of the black community, who also has a white mom. And I mean, she is white. And I'm not judging Barack Obama for having a white mom. I'm not saying Barack Obama isn't black enough. Now, if you want to judge it, if you really want to go and take a fine-tooth comb to who's real enough and who's not, I mean, Barack Obama isn't even real by any racist standards. You're talking about a guy who grew up on a military base in Hawaii, okay? He grew up on a military base. His mom was allegedly a sex operative for the CIA, or at least she worked with the CIA. His dad is an international scientist, scholar, at least his dad on paper, not to mention the rumors about his real father, Thurgood Marshall, but that's not the point. Thurgood Marshall, the communist activist, okay, who he talks about in his book being like a father figure to him, okay? So not to mention those things, but the man went to Harvard. And I'm not casting aspersions about people who go to Harvard, but isn't the entire gaffe of the Black Lives Matter protest about college education and student debt that institutions like Harvard have upheld the white supremacy of the system the whole time? I mean, you guys don't even have your fucking arguments in order. And or you're not keeping them in order. And maybe you're not keeping them in order because you think people are stupid enough to go along with it. And maybe people are stupid enough to go along with it. I don't know. But I can tell you one group who's saying no, and that's black men. Black men are saying, well, fuck all that bullshit. We are in the survival part of the game. We are now in the fourth quarter. Okay. This is the survival quarter. Win or go home. And we want to go, we want to win. We don't want to go home. We want to win. And so winning in the game means putting aside all the bullshit and starting to get to the heart of the shit. And the heart of the shit is these Democrats been promising shit for 60 years. And there's a bunch of Republicans on this side of the aisle who just might as well be Democrats. And they've been working together. This is what they call the uniparty. They've been working together to present the illusion of opposition. You can all bicker and fight. There's only three issues: the border, the debt, the forever wars. Do you want to have a country? If you don't have a country with a border, then you don't have a citizenship. If you don't have citizenship to a country, then you don't have rights. If you don't have rights, the government that's now bigger than it's ever been is going to run roughshod over you. And all you Negroes out there already know that the government's been running roughshod over you. You've been the victim of it for a long, long time. And now you get to decide. You get to decide. Do you want to keep being a victim of it, or do you want to try something a little different? You want to keep following the Kendrick Lamar? And look, I don't care. I know people are going to say, they're going to go, well, you're just siding with Drake because he's light-skinned. Look, it doesn't really make much difference to me. The rap music, it's not about the music. It really isn't. It has nothing to do with the music. I'm worried about the politics. And I see the political angle here clearly. And the political angle is going to start to be now, is going to start to be, we're going to say Herschel Walker wasn't black enough. Either it's your skin color or it's what kind of ideas you believe in, what kind of policy. I mean, they're all, this is the whole gaffe about race, is it's a la carte. They're treating race, now they're starting to treat race as subjective as they do gender. They're even going to do trans race. And I've experienced that myself. I've experienced people trying to do trans race. But it started off with race, which is an immutable characteristic. When you say immutable, it's something that you can't do anything about. You were born that way. You can't change it. It's an appearance thing. You can't change your appearance. Like me being tall, it's an immutable characteristic. Me having big hands, it's an immutable characteristic. Me having a deep voice, these are immutable characteristics, things that I just really couldn't help. Being a woman is an immutable characteristic. Being trans or who you choose to have sex with is a completely mutable characteristic because it's a choice. It is a choice. That's just the reality. I mean, that's just and I'm not saying it's a choice like were you born gay or not. I'm saying who you choose to have sex with, whether gay, straight, or otherwise. Who you choose to have sex with, your sex life, your sexuality is a choice. It's not immutable. So there is no equivalency and this false equivalency between BLM and the LGBTQ movement is offensive. It's offensive. And when people start saying, oh, you're not black enough, you're not black enough, you're not, you start trying to measure race as though it's a subjective thing. No wonder that the black bourgeoisie have been selling out the black community since after World War II. Or no wonder the black people around the world have been selling out black people since the days of slavery. No wonder. So the question we have to ask ourselves now is, what fruit is there to bear from keep traveling down this road? Tell me. You tell me. Maybe you know better than I do. Tell me. What fruit is there to bear from traveling down this road? There is no fruit. And I'm going to end the podcast here today with a little bit of Malcolm X, who was light skinned, by the way. They called him Detroit Red because he was red boned, and is a light skinned guy. And they'll even start to question Malcolm. And actually, some of them do try and question Malcolm, not because he wasn't black enough, because he was saying the shit they don't want to hear. He was saying the shit that opposes their agenda. It's like I told the Republicans at the convention the other day, you think these people oppose George Washington because he owned slaves? That's just a cover story. They don't give a shit about George Washington owning no slaves. They're buying products that are made from slave labor right now today. There's slaves right here in the world today still. And they would gladly, some of these Negroes, they would gladly take a check from the CCP. They would gladly go take a check from China. They don't give a fuck about no slave labor. So it's not a principal matter about slavery. It's about the narrative and it's about the politics currently. They're not mad at George Washington because he owned slaves and to affirm George Washington retroactively is to affirm him in the present. That's not their beef with George Washington. The beef with George Washington is the same beef that the neocon rhino establishment would have with George Washington. George Washington said, beware of foreign entanglements. That this is not a country. This is not a country, a constitution of people, that a nation that needs to be, absorbed with foreign entanglements. And that's what opposes their agenda today. It's got nothing to do with the slaves. But they know that they can distract certain people with the slave narrative. They know they can get certain people on board with the slave narrative, and that's what we got to be smarter than now. And I pray that we're getting there, and I think we are. Because for the first time in my life, a Republican presidential candidate is polling ahead of a Democrat presidential candidate with black men. So black men are waking up, and I'm damn proud to be a part of it. Hell, I'm proud to be the tip of the spear. And all you black bourgeois sellouts can go bite a fucking hog in the ass. Kick rocks, as we would say in the neighborhood. Pound sand, as they would say at the suburban high school lunch table. Pound fucking sand, motherfucker. That's what they would say there. Kick rocks, D's nuts, as they used to say back in the neighborhood, okay? D's nuts with that bullshit you Democrats are peddling. It's bullshit. And, you can go to your Kendrick Lamars and whatever other rappers and whatever other influencers and whatever. At the end of the day, people are starting to figure it out. Hey, Kendrick, how do you feel about the war in Ukraine? Let's get to the real shit. If you motherfuckers want to be political, let's just talk politics. Don't try and fucking, dance your way around the shit with little petty surface. Just go all the way political. So I want to know what your real thoughts are on real issues. And that will tell us a lot. Because I'm in politics. So when you bring a thing like race into it and you start saying who's black enough and who's not, you talking to me. And I would gladly debate any of these bourgeois Negroes, whether they're lighter than me, darker than me, white, Asian, man, woman, trans, whoever you are. I would debate any of you people on any of these topics, anytime, any place, with any set of rules. But part of that's because I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And they know I know what I'm talking about. That's why they never invite me on any of these mainstream platforms to talk about that. And that's probably why they're going to do everything they can to make sure that I don't become the United States Senator here in Minnesota that is now up for grabs. Because for me to become senator is it means that a lot of people aren't going to be able to hide. They won't be able to hide me. And because they can no longer hide me, a lot of people won't be able to hide themselves. They won't be able to hide who they are. I hope this was beneficial for you. We got Professor Penn coming on Friday. We got another Hebrews episode. Benjamin's doing well. He's had his drain removed. So my black son, who is also Thai, his mother is Thai. He's doing well, and he's beautiful. He sends his regards. I hope you enjoyed the video at the beginning of the video at the beginning to give you an update on who he or his progress shooting the baskets and whatnot. And we thank you again for your prayers out there, for him, the power of prayer, and to see the unity of prayer really touched me and my family, and it touched Benjamin. He's a young kid who loves to read the Bible, and I'm proud of that. And he's just been a warrior. 12 days in the ICU, in a bed, barely can move around, probably scared out of his mind. He was having some terrors and things I didn't want to share with everybody because it's really personal. But he was it's traumatic. It's traumatic to have two brain surgeries and be in a place like the ICU and have all these doctors coming in and out, poking you and prodding and doing all these things. So Benjamin's doing better. He's getting his drain out today. The last time I spoke with his mom at the hospital, I'm going to go down and see him this evening, and I think he's going to recovery, and then he's going to come home. And all signs are looking good that his brain and everything is working as it was before. His speech pattern is good. His motion's coming back. Obviously, he's shooting baskets, which isn't an easy thing to do anyway. So everything's looking up. We appreciate it. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. Please, please do not let the cultural identity politics distract you from the truth. The truth. No matter what they tell you in the rap music, no matter what they tell you in the comedy specials, no matter what they tell you in the sitcoms and the movies, the truth of the matter is the Democrats in this country want to make the government as big as possible. If the government gets any bigger, you cease to exist. You as an individual, as an American citizen, you cease to exist. Your citizenship ceases to exist, and your rights will cease to exist. And they will not hesitate to show you how little you mean if you oppose them, how little your rights mean if you oppose them. Test it out. If you think you're special because you're black, go ahead and test it out. Oppose the agenda. Stand against it just as a litmus test. Just see, is there care and love for me and my well-being conditional upon my political support? And if it is, then it's all politics. It has nothing to do with the humanity of it. So that's it for me. This has been another episode of Please Call Me Crazy. Heading over to this Malcolm X speech. I want you to listen to that to get some more context of who Malcolm was and the things that he was calling out about the black community many, many years ago. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Friday evening for another Hebrews episode, and then Saturday morning on Real America's Voice. Republican convention coming up on May 18th. Get ready for that. Donald Trump still being hawked down by a witch hunt. Hawked down by a witch hunt, kangaroo court. It's disgusting. We should all oppose it. There should be protests. I don't know why there aren't more protests in the street. There should be. Get the fuck out there. Do not die on your knees in silence. The fight continues. As always, Godspeed.
I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. Mm-hmm. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. Mm-hmm. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, mm-hmm. economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, mm-hmm. who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
Mm-hmm. I would agree that no doubt there have been a large number of whites who have posed as liberals and as friends of the Negro and who have time and again betrayed the Negro. On the other hand, I think one could point to a large number of whites who have struggled for civil rights, for equality, and have got little or nothing out of it, other than quite a few bruises.
Give me an example.
Well, the large number of white students who have gone into the South, for example, working for SNCC and other organizations.
Not working for SNCC or other organizations, but working for the white political machines who benefit by the voting efforts of Negroes.
Okay, I'll be more specific. I would cite Herbert Hill, for example, as a kind of person who has championed Negro job rights, for example, in New York City and elsewhere. He has fought the political machine.
First time I met Herbert Hill personally was when they were picketing to stop the working on the Harlem Hospital in Harlem. Negroes for 10 years had to fight the city to get an annex built on the Harlem Hospital. Because in Harlem, we need a hospital more so than anything else. Our people are sick. Plus, we do a lot of cutting and shooting of each other, though we profess to be nonviolent. And Herbert Hill brought his forces out and stopped the working on that site. This is the first time I ever saw him. Then, when work was brought to a halt on a hospital in Harlem, the same Negroes tried to stop the work at the Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn, which is predominantly white. They were out there for 3 months during the summer, couldn't stop anything. And I never saw Herbert Hill out there one time. Now, whenever it takes a stoppage of something that's going to affect the white man, you find the white liberal absent. But when it involves something that primarily will affect the best interests of black people and black people only, then that white liberal is present. Herbert Hill is the labor secretary for the NAACP. And if he was interested in black people, he would prepare a black man with the type of knowledge and understanding of the labor troubles involving black people that would enable a black man to sit in the same position as Secretary of Labor or Labor Secretary in the NAACP. I'm suspicious of whites who join Negroes and always have to be in the lead, who always have to be the head, who always have to be at the top in Negro organizations. Those whites who really have the interest of blacks at heart, let them give some advice to some Negroes and stand on the sideline. But don't join the organization and then get at the head of it and pose as a friend of Negroes.
Well, I would defend his sincerity and his commitment. And more than that, I would say that just because a person is a Negro or a black American does not mean that he's going to struggle for Negro rights or for jobs for Negroes or anything else. I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.